A little while ago I reviewed the film The Fall of Berlin from 1950, a Soviet film that is, which I consider to be the worst war film ever produced. It's quite a long video that I made on it, and I go into a lot of depth about propaganda and various things, so if you want to learn more about that, the link will be up here or in the description below. But today I thought I'd give you the opposite of that. I thought I would give you my take on the 5 best historical films that I've ever seen and that I love the most. Now, I'm not going to be like WatchMojo.com and look at just the recommendations. I'm going to look at exactly what people have said, who have experienced this kind of events, veteran accounts, and various other things. Now, the category for these will be both historical accuracy and story. So we will not be including Gods and Generals or The Patriot. Those two movies are absolutely shit. Anyway, let's get into it. Number 5, Gettysburg. The 1993 film depicting the Battle of Gettysburg from July 1st to July 3rd, 1863 is just about the only good thing that Ron Maxwell ever pulled out of his ass. And good it is. Although the story is a little bit dull, some of the characters like Robert E. Lee are so well written that it portrays, finally, a general in an army as a human, not just some mindless slave that does what is told by his masters. Which is quite ironic considering it's Robert E. Lee. Gettysburg gets almost everything accurate about the Civil War, from the way everyone speaks, many of the beliefs that the Confederates had for their reasons of fighting, even though that was completely untrue. I'll go into the lost cause some other day. And its uniforms. The uniforms, weapons, and equipment of this film are on point. And that's because they hired over 5,000 reenactors to make this movie. It's truly an American miracle. Too bad it was just Ron Maxwell. Number 4, Gallipoli. Of course, in honour of my tradition, Queenslander and Australian, I need to put on this hat while talking about this movie. Gallipoli is a 1981 film that stars Mel Gibson of all people. Yep, Mel Gibson can make a good historical movie. I know, weird. It depicts the Battle of Gallipoli from 1915 to 1916. It follows 2 soldiers primarily, ending with one of them being killed. But even though it gets a lot of things wrong in the film about, the way the war was fought, various things, it does have one of the best portrayals of trench warfare I've ever seen. You go from the 2 main characters being strapping young lads looking for glory, women, and honour, to, soldiers who have nothing left to lose and are just trying to survive. There's no glory in war, and Gallipoli was one of the first films to ever highlight that. And that's why it goes at number 4. Number 3, 1917. 1917 is by far the best war film ever made of this century. Honestly, the less I say to you about this film, the better. All I'm going to tell you is that you will be blown away by what you see. You'll be just honestly amazed. The entire film, except for one cut, was perfectly disguised as a single shot, which is amazing. Blew me away the first time I saw that. The film follows 2 privates, corporals actually, who are sent to stop a British attack on German positions. If they don't, the British will lose 1,600 men, including one of the main characters' brothers. This is perhaps a big step in the right direction of how they portray the First World War in many films, especially with the barbed wire, seeing that it actually shows barbed wire as this huge mess across the front, not just this tiny string that you commonly see in some films. And that's why I put 1917 at number 3. Number 2, Barry Lyndon. It's hard to beat Kubrick, mate. Honestly, if Barry Lyndon isn't a perfect historical film, then I don't know what is. It follows a young Irish lad named Barry Lyndon, who goes to England around the time of the 7 Years' War. Every shot of this movie feels like it's a 17th century painting. If camera and sound equipment existed in the 1800s, this is exactly the kind of film they would have made about their predecessors. Natural lighting was used to shoot almost every scene in the film, and where that wasn't available, the effect of natural lighting was carefully mimicked. All the indoor scenes at night were lit entirely by candles, which is no small feat when filming on film. Famously, the only way they could film this was by using a special lens that NASA had developed to photograph the dark side of the moon. But perhaps the greatest achievement of this film is accurately portraying 1700s lifestyle and society. Because let's be honest, nobody alive today would honestly be able to make genuine friendships with anyone born before the Industrial Revolution. If you could go back in time and meet your 7 or 8 times great-grandfather, he would think that you're lazy, carpetbagging, and womanly. Even this guy would think that you're womanly. Unless, of course, you are a woman, but let's be honest, only my mum and grandmother are the only women who watch this video. Hi, Mum. Even Barry himself isn't likable. He's a drunk, cheating, racist, sexist bastard, but he is relatable. Because despite the fact that him and his world is completely alien to the rest of us, Kubrick perfectly captures the human experience for almost anyone of any time period. The only reason this isn't at number one is because it's unfortunately a fictional story. Actually, for better, it's a fictional story. And I like to base my films off of fact. But speaking of number one, Come and See. Come and See is quite simply the best war film ever made. It follows a Belarusian teenager who joins a partisan group during 1943 at the height of the Nazi occupation of the Soviet Union. And it all just goes to batshite from there. Honestly, the less I say about the plot of this movie, the better. You can't really explain this film. You just have to experience it. There are lots of movies out there that emphasize the tragedy of war. I've already named a few of them, but none have ever done it so thoroughly, so convincing, so unflinchingly, and so unapologetically. And it fills you with a sense of unspeakable horror. And as I believe, that's how every war movie should feel. War doesn't look like this. Or this. Or this. It looks like this. This. And this. This movie is so horrifying and disturbing that I'm not even going to show you clips from the worst bit. Now I know you think you're a tough guy because you've seen Cannibal Holocaust or Texas Chainsaw Massacre, but it's different when you know that what you're watching is an unexaggerated depiction of actual historical events. Let's not mince words here. The Wehrmacht burned, looted, murdered, and raped its way across the Eastern Front. They killed 13 million Soviet citizens. Approximately 1 million women gave birth to children that resulted from rape. Many of these women were later killed, by the way, under Nazi anti-Semitimation laws. And that's just the broad historical picture. If you look at it from the micro level, countless other millions had their lives forever destroyed. They lost loved ones, lost their homes, never to be returned ever again. From our comfortable 21st century existence, it's hard to imagine the level of suffering that the Nazis inflicted during their invasion of the Soviet Union. But Come and See gives us a pretty good idea. Anyway, that ends this glorified movie list. I've become WatchMojo.com, haven't I? God damn it, I became the thing I didn't want to be.